Today we're going to be looking at one of the strangest of chameleons, the Namaqua chameleon. Chamaeleo namaquensis is from the South Africa, Namibia area, and is one of the rarest species of chameleons in captivity. But there have been some captive breeding successes, and today I talk with Brett Hanson, who has successfully reproduced his Namaqua chameleons, and he tells us how he did it. Please join me in welcoming Brett Hanson to the Chameleon Academy podcast. Hello, Brett. Welcome to the Chameleon Academy.
Hi, Bill. Nice to talk to you.
How long have you been involved with chameleons?
45 years. And I don't keep anything else. It's just chameleons. Nothing else.
As it should be.
Although I do like all reptile life, but I specialised in them.
So you have a bit of perspective. You know what's out there. And the subject of today's interview is you have quite the interesting and unique beast that you've been working with. Could you please introduce us to this incredible chameleon?
Right. The species you're talking about, Bill, is namaquensis or Namaqua, which come from Namibia. They only live on coastal regions. It never rains there, Bill. Not one drop. Not one. So you wonder how life survives there. Well, they get moisture from the ocean. That's why they live on coastal regions. And it comes across at night when the temperature drops as a mist. And it forms little droplets on things. And it's enough to give them 100 millimeters of rainfall a year without having the rain, which is quite a lot for somewhere where it never rains, Bill.
Yeah.
And that's where they get the moisture. And a lot of the prey animals, which they eat, also eat them, and they get moisture from them too. But they're a very, very tough animal. And the region they live in is the harshest of environments you could ever come across. Up to 45 degrees C in the day, and gets down to 15 degrees Celsius at night. So it's rather extreme.
Now, Brett, you're talking about desert region, and so there aren't a whole lot of trees there.
None. There aren't any.
No.
These chameleons have adapted to living on the desert floor. They have the same fused toes as other chameleons have, and they spread their feet out, and they can actually run. They're the only chameleon that can run, and they can run fast. What they can't do is climb, Bill. They can't climb at all. They can't close the feet like other chameleons can to grip on branches. They don't have that ability. But they do like to scramble up on the rocks there at night to be off the ground just a little bit. And they're very clumsy and they fall off.
Oh, well, could you just give us, the idea of a chameleon living in the desert, running around on the sand dunes, this is just like mind-blowing for your typical chameleon keeper. Can you give us just a basic idea of what 24 hours in the life of a namaquensis looks like?
Right. I will start from first light then, Bill. So they've had a cold night. There's no shelter there for them, so there's nowhere to hide. They get what it is. There is no hiding places. So after a cold night, the first sunlight comes up. The first thing they do is get in it and warm up a bit. And they'll have dew formed on their bodies, which has come from the ocean overnight because of the drop in temperature. And they drink, but it's not like a normal chameleon drinks. They'll sit there with the head up and let the mist form onto the head, and they have a little groove in the bottom of the lip, and it trickles in. And they don't need a lot to survive, Bill. They don't need a lot.
All right. So what do they eat?
They eat anything, including each other, smaller versions of themselves. Food isn't abundant there, Bill. They have to walk a long way to find a meal. So they will attack, and it is documented, they will attack a scorpion, which would quite happily eat them. So it's a constant battle of survival. I've never filmed them eating a scorpion, although I'd love to, but I don't put my own animals at risk, Bill. It's just,
Yeah.
I just don't have the guts to do it because
No,
how they attack
I wouldn't
them,
either.
how they attack them is they target the stinger with the tongue and bite it off. And obviously the scorpion in the meantime is trying to sting them because they're a meal for him. So I don't know what the percentages are of them winning or the scorpion winning. I do not know. But it's probably 50-50, I would think. They will also eat small desert vipers that exist there. There's no large animals where they are, Bill. There's not enough, because there's no rainfall, the moisture's so small, you only get small animals there, which are insects, other lizards, snakes, and the desert vipers are very tiny, but very venomous. And it's documented again that what they do when they come across the viper fancies a meal of the chameleon, and the chameleon fancies a meal of the viper. They target the head, and they've got very powerful jaws. One bite on that animal's head and he's a goner. So that's their strategy. Eat and not get eaten, basically. As the day goes through, through the heat of the day, they tend not to be active when the sun's at its highest point because it's just too hot. They tend to sit around then and wait till it goes down a little bit and cooler. And then they'll be on the hunt again. They're constantly hunting, Bill. Do not stop, pretty much, looking for the next meal. And they're very greedy. They can eat prey bigger than you could imagine. They could even swallow, Bill. And the young are just the same. You think there's no way you can eat that, and they do. They do.
Okay. So why don't we see these in captivity?
There are a few about, not many. I got mine from Europe. I got an opportunity to get some from Europe. These had come in some years ago, and a couple of people there had the opportunity to have them, and they managed to breed them, Bill.
Okay.
The animals I got are actually third generation, so they've actually done quite well with them. And the babies I've got now are fourth generation. So that they do very well in captivity. You tend not to see them because they don't allow exports out of Namibia, I'm sorry to say, of these particular animals. They're so scarce, and that's got nothing to do with habitat. It's got to do with where they live and the abundance of food. So many, you're not going to get many of them around in miles of area. You just don't get them because the food isn't there. So anyway, I managed to secure some. I've had them for quite a while now, Bill. And I've been after some of these for 20 years. So when the opportunity came, I jumped at it. Although it cost me a small fortune, but I wasn't bothered about that. I just wanted to study them. Yeah. Now, my friends in Europe who did breed them, they don't seem to bother studying their animals as such. They like to work out how to keep them alive and breed them. And they do it very well. Let me tell you, they do it very well. But they're not good at sharing information either. Because I did ask them basic information when I got mine, and they wouldn't give it me. So I had to learn for myself.
Well, let's dive into that. You've got a chameleon that is so totally different from any other chameleon. I mean, if I get a new species, I've got a very good foundation. I'm just trying to see how much UVB they'd like. But namaquensis, that's totally starting over. How do you start over figuring out how to take care of a chameleon that's totally different?
Yeah, well, I looked at the weather and the environment on weather charts for the area. And you can get weather charts for any region on the planet now, Bill, with the internet. They tell you everything. So that was quite easy. They need massive amounts of UV, Bill. Now, it was suggested to me to use a very high wattage UVB spotlight for a short period of time. I decided not to do that because that's not natural, Bill. It's not natural to get that much in a half-hour period. So they get a high UV over a day. So I decided to use full spectrum spotlights for heating, which they get UVA and UVB off, but a low edge wattage one, which they get continuously through the day. I also use the full spectrum strip lights as well in conjunction with that. So they're getting a high UVA and UVB content throughout the day, which I think's more natural than doing a quick half-hour session and then turn it off. And that's what I proceeded to do. And it has worked for me. I've had no problems with them whatsoever.
So what does the cage look like?
Right, well, the tank, I got as big as I could fit in my place because I needed quite a few. It's basically a desert vivarium setup like you would use for bearded dragons. Not much in it, Bill. Fine sand, which I use aquarium sand, nice fine sand. Some rocks, a thickish branch, which they try and climb up, but they're not very good at it, but they do like to sit on it. And that's basically it for the setup inside. The tanks I'm using are 5 foot long by 2.5 foot deep and 2.5 foot high. So you don't need any height because they don't climb. It's all about the walking with them, and they do a lot of it.
Yeah. How does an animal that is used to walking all day, long distances, adapt to an enclosed cage?
Well, I found them no problem. They do. They walk around the outer edges. They do walk around there, and they don't stop there. They're constantly on the move. So what I tend to do is move things around in there. Every now and again. I'll move the rocks in the centre, so they can't. It's not like the same. I move things around. Just by moving a few rocks around, it's different. And you don't have to have a lot in there.
As far as hydration, how did you do that?
It is simple, but it's also tricky because you don't want any humidity in their tank. It's hot and dry. Okay. They will not drink out water or moisture off a surface at all. They don't do it. So you use a fine mist sprayer like you use for plants, for spraying plants. Put it on a very fine spray and just spray the animals directly. And they will just sit there quite happily with the heads up in the air, and they'll have a drink. And you don't have to do this every day. It's every 3 days, Bill. So their moisture requirements are very, very small. I spray the young ones every day, although I don't think I need to. That was more out of being a bit frightened of them getting dehydrated with them being babies. Mm-hmm. But no, they're just as tough as the adults, so I've stopped doing that. But one thing they do, which I don't know why they do it though, after a night's misting, the sand's slightly damp, they rub themselves in it, they rub the whole bodies in it. I've never seen this before, and it's to do with the dampness. They only do it while the sand is slightly damp, not wet, because it doesn't get wet, it's slightly damp after you've sprayed them, and they're rubbing the bodies, the sides, and it's like pure ecstasy from them, and they do it for about half an hour. And I don't know why they do it, but it's something new to me, and I watch them doing it all the time. I will try and get some film for you doing it, Bill.
Oh, definitely. How did they react to the captive diet?
The captive diet was no problem. Right. Well, I feed them as varied as possible. I give them small crickets, medium crickets, and it's all about prey size as well as what the prey is, because they are adapted to eat anything, any size, given the opportunity. So I give them the black crickets, I give them the brown crickets, the locusts. The babies even eat small locusts, and there's no way they could eat one, but they do. They will take small roaches. Anything you put in, they will eat it. If it moves, they'll have it. I do give them one thing, which I know it has no nutritional value, but they are full of moisture. and they actually love them. And they are the waxworms, the small waxworms. I'm assuming you have them in
we
USA. Yeah, nutritional value is zero, but they're full of moisture. And I know these animals get moisture from the food, so I'll chuck some of them in as well. So they're getting a drink while they're having a little bit of a meal, and they relish them. They relish them. So feeding them, they don't turn the nose up at anything, nothing. They'll eat it.
And what's their personality like?
They are scared of nothing, Bill. The only way you can describe them is they're like little baby rhinos charging around. Anything gets in the way, they just shove it out the way. I've got the youngsters in one tank at the moment, but the adults you cannot keep together whatsoever. They're so aggressive. They rip each other to pieces, Bill. But the young aren't doing this at the moment. They do display to each other with the tail curled up over the back and mouths open. They do the odd threat display, but they're not attacking each other. They just go about the business of hunting, and if one of the other youngsters is in the way, they just barge them out the way, as if they're not there. So, but they're only young at the moment. They're coming up to 2 months old, Bill. And the young didn't all hatch at the same time, so there is an issue with size.
Okay.
Because they grow quick. So the first ones that hatch are 3 times bigger than the last ones that have hatched. So I've had to take them out, Bill. They're the larger ones, because they would quite happily eat the smallest ones. So I've had to remove those because of that reason. But where the ones that are left are all similar size, so at the moment I'm okay keeping them together, although I do watch them for proper signs of aggression, which will come as they get older.
Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about the breeding process.
Right, the breeding process is quite simple. The male, he has to ambush the female. That's the only way to describe it. And it has to be quick. She is bigger than him, she is stronger than him, and she's not going to be willing. And she's quite capable, a female is quite capable of killing a male. So what happens is, in my instance, my first attempt at putting them together, the female showed receptive colours, which is like a very light rose pink colour. So she's receptive for mating. That doesn't mean to say she'll let the male mate, though. It just means she's receptive. I put the male in there, and he divvied about. He circled her. So she beat him up, Bill, bad. She gave him a right good hiding. I had to take him out quick. I thought she was going to kill him. So a week later, I tried again. She was still showing receptive colours. He'd learnt his lesson this time. As soon as he saw her, he ran at her like a 100-metre sprinter. He ran at her, jumped on her. She was trying to fight him off, and he managed to couple up to her. And the coupling doesn't last long either. A couple of minutes, where in other chameleon species, they'll sit there coupled up for half hour or an hour. These are 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then she's fighting him off. Mm-hmm. And you've got to get the male out of there, because she will hurt him.
Okay.
Right, it's very, very quick. Very quick. But it's his life. If he gets it wrong, she's more than capable of killing him, and will do so.
Okay, so what is the gestation, and then what's incubation like?
Right, well, they carry the eggs for about 6 weeks, Bill. They start digging about in the sand, and they may do that up to 2 weeks before the eggs are laid. They do mess about a bit, the females. So it's about 6 weeks. When the eggs are laid, they're enormous, Bill. They're the biggest egg I've seen any chameleon lay. And they're half, like namaquensis, are half the size of the panthers, and their eggs, when they're laid, are 3 times as big. You just can't think that they could lay such big eggs. But they do. But they are very different to any other chameleon egg. I almost threw my first clutch away. And the reason was, I didn't think they was fertile, Bill. The colour was wrong, and they're so soft to touch, you can squeeze them like a sponge. But I didn't chuck them away. I thought, let's see what happens. So I put them in the incubator. I used damp vermiculite, sat them on top. And after about 6 weeks, the colour changed from yellow. They went pink.
Okay.
And they really grew quick. They exploded like balloons. Every week I looked, they were bigger. And they were enormous, Bill. So the eggs are definitely moisture sensitive. It's all about moisture. The eggs, when the young hatch, the eggs are much bigger than they need to be. It's all full of moisture. So that I would think that triggers the gestation. I'm going to do an experiment. The next brood I get, I'm going to take 5 out and keep them just very slightly damp so they don't shrivel up, and incubate the others as normal.
Okay.
And after probably 2 or 3 months, I'm going to add the correct amount of moisture and see if they start to gestate then. And then that answers the question that they are definitely moisture sensitive. So I intend to do that, a little experiment.
Okay. So how long was the incubation?
The incubation is 5.5 months, Bill.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, mine didn't hatch all at once. I got 2 out, and I was thrilled to get 2 out. I wasn't expecting any because it was first time I've incubated them, so I had to give it my best guess, and the moisture I had to guess as well.
Yeah.
And you keep them a lot damper than you would think. Just a little bit less than panther chameleon eggs, dampness-wise, that's all. And they ballooned up beautifully, they did. And the hatching was fairly quick as well. They don't mess about. Once the head's out of the shell, within hours they're running about, Bill. They don't sit there for long. So I got the first 2 out, let me just think, then it was 2 weeks later, and then the majority of the others hatched all at the same time, and it left me with 3 eggs not hatched, and they hatched a month after them. Okay. I don't know how natural that is. I'm not sure, but that's what happened in my case.
Well, how do we reconcile you saying that you put them in with a moist sand, and at least we think the fact is that they're in sand dunes, and so there isn't moisture where they're laid. Obviously, we're making a lot of assumptions here, and we may not know the actual reason, but how do you reconcile that?
Well, from the moisture point of view, I think, I can only guess, Bill, but I think in the natural habitat, the incubation would take a lot longer. Mm-hmm. I think there will be periods of time when they get more mist and the ground's a bit damper, and other times it's going to be not so damp. So I would think they would gestate in growth spurts. When it's damp, they spurt, and then when it's not so damp, they will slow down. That's my theory. That's the only way I can describe it, and it is a theory. But they react to the dampness for sure, very much so.
Do you have a sense for how long it takes for sexual maturity?
I can't tell you, Bill. I will let you know as these grow, right. But they are growing fast. I will let you know in due course, but they do grow quick. But I would say that's to do with the abundance of food they're getting. They're getting more food off me than they get in the wild.
Yeah.
So they are going to grow quicker.
All right. So at this point, I'm going to ask a very open-ended question because I have no idea what the answer will be. But what will someone who is used to traditional chameleons, what interesting things will they learn and notice if they start working with namaquensis?
Well, they will notice, as you know, Bill, most chameleons are nervous. Mm-hmm. They tend to like to be well hidden in the foliage. They like to see but not be seen, and that's generally for most chameleon species. These couldn't give a monkey's, Bill. They couldn't. They're so brash. So there's no hunting around looking for them, thinking where is he today or not. They're marching around their tank, feeding. Uh-huh. And the speed they can run, I was flabbergasted. You just can't believe that they can run like that. And I do mean proper run, proper sprint. They can chase an animal down quite easily.
Okay.
I sent you some film of my male mating with my female, and the speed that he moves at, when your listeners see it, is how fast they can move. And it's hard to believe how quick they can run. Okay. But they're not frightened of anything, Bill. They're not frightened of anything at all. Like when you go in to handle them, they puff themselves up in chameleon fashion, hiss at you. To pick one up, you use sit them on the flat of your hand because they can't grip your fingers like a normal chameleon can.
Interesting.
Their feet, they can't do it. They can't do it. Huh. They've lost that ability. They've still got the same fused toes, the 3 and the 2, but theirs stay open flat. They can't grip a branch, which is quite...
You know, I'm all about leaving a chameleon alone and not messing with them, but I will ask the question, how do they adapt to humans? Do they care about being held? How do they deal with humans?
Indifferent, Bill. Very indifferent. They don't seem to be bothered at all. They certainly don't get stressed, which a lot of chameleons do get stressed. They don't want you anywhere near them. They're not bothered, Bill. They're not bothered. Okay. Once you've got them on your hand, they sit there until they decide they want to clear off and go hunting again. Okay. I don't handle mine a lot, Bill. I like to watch them more than handling them. It's all about watching them. But yeah, they're not bothered at all. They're not phased.
That's awesome.
And when people they will get the opportunity to have these species, or initially they're expensive, but the price will come down as more people decide to join the party and have a go and breed them. And I'm open about information. Anybody who wants to join the program over here, I will tell them everything they need to know so they can breed them as well, because I want people to breed them.
What is the captive population like? I mean, we really haven't seen much of these at all. So what are the chances that we will be able to work with them?
I would say you'll probably get a chance within a year or two, Bill.
Oh, really?
If you really want to. The population in the UK is, I've got them. Okay. I'm afraid there aren't any others, but I have enough animals to do a bit of a breeding program, and I know most of the breeders over here and specialists. I've invited them to have a pair and start breeding. Some have said yes, some are and ahhing because of the expense, and it's an unknown quantity to them. They're frightened of losing the money, which is understandable. They're very expensive, but they won't regret it because these are things are that tough. Killing them, accidentally killing them, it's not going to happen, Bill. It really isn't. They're so tough. They're so tough. I've not seen any sign of any ailments in any of mine at all. None. Okay. None. Nothing.
All right. Well, I know everybody listening is the question on their mind is, how expensive are they right now? Are you at liberty to share?
The ones I have are £5,000 a pair. Okay. You might think I'm doing it for profit. It's not, Bill. It cost me a small fortune to get these, and I need to recoup my money, else I'll be bankrupt, Bill. And all I'm after is getting my money back. That's all. And when I've got my money back, then I can drop the price lower on the next generations, and so on and so on. And that's how it will pass on. Like people that buy them off me, they'll be looking to recoup their money from the young they have. But it will come down. It will come down. They have quite a lot of eggs, Bill. More than is documented.
Oh.
I've been told and I've read that they don't have any more than 14 eggs. Piffle, Bill, piffle. 23 is what I got.
All right.
23. And although there were some that were infertile, the majority were good, Bill. I was also told they only mate twice a year. Piffle, Bill. Total piffle. Yeah, absolute piffle. They will mate a lot more than that if you let them. But I wouldn't. I made the mistake of I've got more eggs on the go and I let them mate for a third time. I saw the female was showing her pale pinkish colour. I thought, oh, she's game again. So I put him in there, mated. But the eggs she had, 3/4 of them, Bill, were rubbish. I did the same as before. I put them in the incubator, and after 6 weeks, I expected them to change colour. The majority, they were no good. So I would suggest that twice a year, and you will get 95% good eggs. If you let them make more than that, not only are you increasing the risk of the female, because it does take it out of them breeding, but you're getting majority of rubbish eggs. So there's no point in doing that, is there, Bill?
No.
That was a lesson learned. That was a mistake on my part. I was being a bit greedy. I thought, oh, she wants to mate again. Why stop her? But I'm only going to let them mate twice a year, and I know I'll get good clutches from that.
All right. Do you know if they retain the sperm?
I don't. Okay. Couldn't tell you, Bill. It's early days yet. They may do. If my female starts to develop eggs now, I know she hasn't mated for some time, so that would tell me that they do. Okay. But then, would they be fertile or any good? That's another question.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we will find out, Bill.
Now, I know the growth rate is highly dependent upon how much they're fed, but yes. Between hatching and they coming to a size of when they could go to new homes, how long have you found that to be?
2 months, Bill.
2 months?
Yeah, 2 months. The first two I hatched out, they've gone now. They've gone to a breeder, and the site they were. How would you describe them? They were a good 3 inches, Bill.
Oh.
And fat. The first two, they've gone to the new homes already, and the size of them was phenomenal. But like I say, it's probably because I feed them every day. They won't get that in the wild, so it'd take longer. But they do grow quick.
Okay. Do you know how many bloodlines we have in captivity?
That I know of, between me and Europe, I know of 4. There are 4. Okay. I don't know of any more. If you want it, I know you could get them from Europe. They're probably on about their 5th generation now. There are 3 breeders that have them in Germany. They are, well, as you know, they're massive chameleon buffs, and they do get some opportunities that none of us ever get. But that's where I got mine from. Okay. They are pricey, but in due time, you go to the expense of importing them and all that. You will get your money back, and then you'll be able to drop the price, so others can then step in and join in if they're interested.
Okay.
But yeah, there aren't many. There could be more bloodlines out there, Bill, but not that I know of. I only know of the ones in Germany and the ones I have.
All right. Well, Brett, what are your plans going forward, both with namaquensis and with chameleons in general?
Right. Well, namaquensis, like I say, I'm looking for 4 or 5 people to do the breeding program with me. I've got 3 on board at the moment, so I'm looking for 2 more, which will make it much more affordable for people to get over here. And you find with namaquensis, you can only keep 1 to a tank, so keeping 20 animals is, for most people, is out the question. It really is. From the chameleon front, there are other species that have never been studied, Bill. They have a name, and I would love to study them, and I will try and do so. One of my main targets would be carpenteri. I would love it.
All right.
Yeah, getting hold of them, Bill, is ridiculous because you can't import things if CITES haven't given them a quota. And these animals aren't on the quota list because nobody's ever had them or imported them. And they come from Uganda, the Mountains of the Moon. There are quite a few species there that have never been studied. But maybe I'll have to approach our governing body if they'll let me have some on a scientific permit, maybe. There's no harm in asking. There's no harm in asking. No. They can say yes or no, can't they? But to do a new species, you've got to have enough to keep going. So you'd have to have certainly 5 pairs, wouldn't you? You'd have to have 5 pairs, if not more.
5 pairs minimum.
Yeah, so they're a species I would love to. I've only ever seen pictures of them, Bill, and they're very old pictures from the 60s, from the 1960s.
So if somebody wanted to follow your progress, are you on social media anywhere?
I am. I'm on Facebook, Bill. Or if you want to talk to me, you can just type in my name, which is Brett Hanson. Put Brett Hanson, UK. The city I live in is called Havant. My ugly face will pop up with a big chameleon in front of it. So I'm very easy to find, Bill. Okay. I do use WhatsApp a lot, but I am in contact with a lot of people in the USA anyway on Facebook. I have quite a number of Facebook friends over there.
All right. Do you have any last words for the chameleon community about namaquensis?
Yes. If you get the chance, get them. Get them. And you won't regret it. You will not regret it. You'll think, oh, well, I don't want to keep anything else. And you just won't be able to stop watching them. So hopefully you guys over there will get your chance. I know they're expensive at the moment, but as more people breed them, the price will come down. And somebody has to be first out there and fork out that initial outlay getting them. Somebody has to be first. And over here it was me. And I don't regret it, Bill, at all. Don't regret it.
All right, Brett. I want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing your experience.
Like I say, I will keep in contact with you, Bill, and send you photos and videos as I get them of the interesting things that when they give me a chance to film them, because they don't stick around to be filmed, these things don't.
Excellent.
Thank you very much for your time, Bill. Been lovely talking to you.
So, will we be working with this very bizarre chameleon in the near future? If Brett has his way, we just might. As more and more breeders work with this species, we may all have the opportunity to experience this very, very strange chameleon. Thank you very much for joining me and Brett here to learn about this chameleon. And if you'd like to learn more about chameleons in general, I invite you to join the Chameleon Academy newsletter, which you can go to the chameleonacademy.com website and sign up there. And in there, you'll get a monthly notification of everything that's going on. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.